Drop it.
It's a little bit crazy. You're suddenly blurry now. I wonder if anything was real. All our history's hazy, like driving in the pouring rain. Are we in too deep to heal? You tell me that you're sorry, we'll make up tomorrow. Tell me everything you know I wanna hear. I'm trying to be open, but that window is closing. And either way, I need to make it clear before we're leaving here. Before we're leaving here.
I know it ain't easy, but there's something left to hold on to. We can work it through, you don't have to go. There's a future here with me. We'll find the light in a clouded room. Not giving up until you know.
You tell me that you're sorry, we'll make up tomorrow. Tell me everything you know I wanna hear. I'm trying to be open, but that window is closing. And either way, I need to make it clear before we're leaving here. Either way, I need to make it clear before we're leaving here.
Yeah, shalom everyone, shalom. I want to welcome everyone to the house of the Lost Sheep of Israel. I'm Elder Michael Johnson, which will be bringing you forth the lesson today, which is the etymology study of Proverbs. And as we've been going through this study, we've been finding out a lot of things, as well as we go in the back and get the summary study, but finding out a lot more things in the back, many times than what is going on in the front. So before we even get started, just make sure once we finish this study here, we do go to the other section and we do a little bit of deeper study on that side, to where we also get the precepts and everything on what we just studied. So before we even get down into this, we got to remember to study on Proverbs. We finished up last week. We finished up chapter 2 altogether. So now we're going into chapter 3, which is the newer part of the study, and making sure we see what we see as we moving forward. But we want to make sure what I'm trying to make sure we're doing right now. What I want to make sure we're doing right now is always making sure that we're putting a few things there ahead of time before we move through. We want to pretty much already know what's set before us as we getting ready to move through. Based on some of the same things we did yesterday, based on some of the same things we did last week, same thing we constantly reminding to where we need to meditate. I want you to put that at the top of Proverbs chapter 3. Not forgetting to meditate. And we're going to find out why. Because a lot of things we're going to learn together as we go through this study here on today. And it starts off with this. We're looking at the first part here, where we see right here, and it says, my son, which is a servant, but we're going to look at it, my son, forget not my law. And that's a full thought there. Based on how you see the separation, that's a full thought. And this is a mandate. And for us to meditate on a certain thing, which we got to, together, we have to learn. Because if it's saying, forget not my law, functionally, we need to understand how he's saying this and what we need to forget not what. See, this, we got to think about this. Because he says, but thy heart keep my commandments. We're going to look at that part in a minute, but we want to look at the first part where it says, forget not my law. We need to understand how that works. Forget not what. And we can meditate on a few things, because this is based on meditation, on why he even saying that. Because he's saying, forget not. He's not saying anything else. Well, so we need to meditate on something. In doing that, we have to see here where he tells us what we need to do. So we can meditate on his wondrous works in the Word of God, which is law, which we can start fully understanding during the lesson. We are not to forget the things which we learn through God's Word in the lesson taught within the Word of God. It's not a tongue twister. It's not nothing with a catchphrase to it, but that's what it's telling us. We are not to forget things which we have learned through God's Word or the lesson taught within the Word of God. That's what we need to find out. Learn God, he's warning us of something. See, when we learn of God warnings, that's one thing we can meditate on. Think about that. Learning what God warnings are within the scriptures. Making sure we can comprehend his advice on what he gave us. Look at it right there. He's telling us, forget not my law. If we telling us something, he's mandating this to where we need to understand his commandment on which he's saying that. It gets a little better when we look at some things. And God educating us on this doctrine on something. So if we're not to forget his law, we have to understand more so what he's teaching that's comprehensive all together within this here. So God is educating us on the doctrine of faith. want you to also put that there. He's educating us on the doctrine of faith. Put that right beneath there. We need to meditate on it, but meditating on what? Meditating on the doctrine of faith, which is love. See, the doctrine of faith has to do with health and healing and honor, obedience and peace and stewardship, health and wisdom. And forget not the things, the warnings of the lessons that is taught within the book. It says again, forget not my law. It's clear. So we need to meditate on the things which God's created. And these things he created. Not trying to emulate things that man has done, which we kind of get into, which is the problem. So we more focus on other things when we should be meditating on the things that God did, not trying to sit there and recreate something and emulate things that is God's business, and we try to take the same identical thing and then we try to recreate it to where we can get the due service, or we can get the reverence that we look for. We can get the honor on what it is. We can get the obedience. We can get the stewardship, the wealth, and the wisdom from someone else who we think and we look at towards as God. People saying, no, this is not making sense. It makes all the sense in the world, because we're not to trying to emulate ourselves as gods. That's why he said, forget not my law. So if we don't forget it, we need to meditate on these things. Y'all with me? Let's dig more into this. In Colossians, we're going to look at 3, and we're going to pick it up at verse 22. We right here. 3 and 22. And watch what it says. It says, servants, sons, servants, obey in all things your masters according to the flesh. This is deep, because he's going to flip this on us. It says according to the flesh. That's a full thought. But he says, not with eye service, comparing as men pleasers, but in singleness of heart, fearing God. Fear is talking about desire. This is what we need to really get on as he's doing this. So, for example, if you are a servant of Christ, then if this is true, we sitting there, it's telling us here where people will say, hey, they need to be obedient to these preachers. They need to be obedient to all these other people. That's not what it's saying, because he's saying right there, servant, obey in all things your masters according to the flesh. And he's saying that for a specific reason, because if you're going to obey everything according to the flesh, he's going to tell you something. He's going to make us understand this. He's going to make us understand something. Let's look at this in Romans chapter 8, picking up at verse 13, which it is right here. It's telling you, for if we live after the flesh, ye shall die. But if ye through the Spirit do mortify the deeds of the body, ye shall live. So what most people will do here with eye service, you have to be doing things of the flesh. But we have to mortify those deeds of the flesh. See, mortifying the works of the flesh is not trying to be recreating the things of God already set up. Doing these things, we're creating things according to the flesh and not things according to of God. That's what our problem is. So we need to meditate on this. Forget not my law, because he has a structure on which he set up. But if we start creating things in which is not of God, now we have a problem, because now we calling ourselves gods and not servants. How do we look at this? In 1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 9, it says, knowing this, that the law is not made for a righteous man, because a righteous man is going to do things that is not according to God. And you're going to do things according to the flesh. So you see why he's catching us up when we're looking at Colossians. Because Paul is showing you the contrary things on what people do. But he's saying this. So the law is not made for a righteous man. But why? It says, but the lawless, including disobedient, the ungodly, the sinners and unholy, profane, and for murderers of fathers and murderers of mothers, manslayers, for whoremongers, for them that defile themselves with mankind, for men stealers, for liars, for perjured persons. Now, some of you guys probably seeing the point. Because a lot of us like to play God. See, this is why, according to the flesh, we will service flesh. Also, we'll be serving things with eye service to men and not to God. These things are not righteous with God, and it's also men ungodly. Men playing God. Men playing God. Think about that. Actually, I want to show you something. We're going to switch over to another set of Bibles. I'm going to show you something. One second. So I'm going to have to switch this sound back over. Because I switched over there and I'm trying to get the sound on. And the sound not going on for some reason. So give me one hot second. And we... One second, let me see. One second, trying to see why is this acting up this way. One second here. Why is this sound has went differently? Is what I'm trying to see. So just give me one hot second. We're gonna see. Now we see. Let me see. This sound, yeah. Now we have sound. I don't know why it did that. I really don't know why it did that there. And we have this one here. This is it's weird. So my thing, I don't know why it switched over, because when I switched over, it should have went on and did it correctly, but for some reason when I switched over, I see my sound went directly out. And I was trying to sit there and see what was going on. But to pick up what I was saying, when you look at Sirach chapter 38 and verse 4, 38 and 4, it says this. And some people saying you're getting an echo. Let me see something. If not, I'm just going to do everything on the other side. And it's saying they're getting an echo. So let me check something real quick here. Let me see. Is the echo still there? Let me see. I don't know why the echo is happening. Let me see here. And let me see. And the echo should be done there. 1 second. I might just move this over to the other side. And let me do this here. We'll do that. And I will check and see if the echo's still there. If the echo's still there, then I know I just need to take out the one. So let me see. Because I don't get the echo right now. But if I'm still getting the echo, I know what to do. But they're still echoing. So I know what I need to do there. So let me do this here. We're going to go to this chalkboard. And we're going to remove something. We're going to go to the chalkboard and remove something. And let me take this chalkboard out. So, right now, it shouldn't be echoing at all. So it shouldn't be echoing at all. So I just want to check right now about the echo. Is the echo there? Just want to check with the echo. We shouldn't be having an echo whatsoever. And still echoing. 1 second. Let's check one more thing here. And let's see here. Did that take out the echo? And the echo shouldn't be there, but we're trying to get rid of now the echo. Still has the echo. I want to check something. Let me check one other thing here. We should get rid of the echo. I'm going to sit there. I want to check it myself. To where we can get rid of the echo.
How much would you want to pay to wear the
Let me
most
see.
comfortable shoes in the world?
Let's sit there and see if I can get rid of it. If I can get rid of the echo. Yeah, the echo is gone. Okay, I'm getting on my end. The echo, there's no echo. So I'm not getting the echo on my end. Yeah, the echo is gone. Okay, I'm getting my end. Yeah. Yeah, the echo is no, it's not there. So let me move forward on this because I'm not getting the echo over here now. So the echo is now gone. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to move that part over here. I'm going to put that here. We're going to go to the Sirach. We're going to look at Sirach here to find out more what I was talking about from the beginning. In Sirach chapter 38, we're going to look at 38. We're going to pick it up at verse 4. Echo 38 and 4, it says this. It says this. This is why it's so important. It says, the Creator have created medicines out of the earth. He that is wise will not harbor them. I want you to think about that. I want you to think about that fully. Because if you are now and you sit there and you see what's happening there, is you'll see all together to where you got preachers out there, you got doctors out there, you got people out there that where it tells you clear as day, if you see things that's created out of the earth, and you have scientists who have created medicines out of the earth. Now, if they created out of the earth, why are we now still dealing with these drugs that is not made for us? made for anyone's bodies. These are things we need to think about. Meaning this is telling us if it's created out of the earth, why are we looking at even commercials? Why do we even look at commercials altogether? And you'll see 10-second commercial. And within the 10 seconds of the commercial, the next 20 to 30 seconds, they warning you of side effects. They warning you of the side effects from these drugs that they have created. Not using the medicines that was created for the bodies out of the earth. And it's telling us, Lord hath created the medicines out of the earth. He that is wise will not harbor them. How is this working out for us? Why this is working out so differently? This is what's going on here. This is why we need to make sure we focus on what is happening here. So when we understand these things, we can understand exactly what is being said here. This is why it's so important to make sure. So important to make sure exactly if it's something that's created for our body, we need to ask the question ourselves, why is it that they have to give us 20 to 30 seconds warnings of side effects? This is the problem here. This is the problem here. This is why it's so important to understand what is going on here. So we see this here. And we see in verse 10 where we're going to look at something a little bit more. We're going to go down a little bit more. We're going to go down a little bit more and understand a little bit more here. In 1 Timothy, we're going to look at something a little bit more to find out. In verse 10, it says this in 1 Timothy. It says, for whoremongers, tell us right here, for whoremongers, for them that defile themselves with mankind, man stealers, for liars, for perjured persons, and if there be any other thing that is contrary to sound doctrine. Anything else that is contrary to sound doctrine. So what I want to do is we want to understand a couple of things, because which makes us whoremongers. So not making us whoremongers, but you see that you have other people that telling you these whoremongers. And a whoremonger is one that is whoring themselves for money, for power, and for respect. Being not only liars, but they're perjured. They perjured. That's why it's saying this. They perjured persons. Why is it saying it that way? Because perjured means one that swears or sworn falsely that something that they want to tell you is good is not good. Are you with me? They telling you it's good, but it's not good. They perjured. Saying they created things that was good, just as good as God, but they not. For the mighty dollar, they will tell you contrary things to sound doctrine, which is he's telling you, I've created things that was out of the earth, but they will literally sit there and tell you these things is good, but they will suppress the problem, but they got to tell you 30 to 40 seconds in what you need to be watching out for, so you might have these side effects, then you need to immediately go to a doctor. Think about that. Contrary to sound doctrine. He created you. You don't think he know how to take care of what he created? See, when we look at things as this, we have to look at also the comparison things on what he has also done. I'm going to show you what's going on here. Why he's saying, forget not his law, because he's telling you that many people trust man way more than God when you should trust God more than man. Let's look at this. Let's go to Luke, and we're going to look at Luke in chapter 12. Luke chapter 12, we're going to pick it up at verse 24 and find out a little bit more here. In verse 24, it says this. It says, consider the ravens. Consider the ravens, for they neither sow nor reap, which neither have storehouse nor barn, and God feedeth them. I want you to keep that in mind. So God told us one thing, that he created medicines out of the earth, and he said, in the people who is wise would not harbor these things. That's what he's saying. But he's saying, and you can consider the ravens, to show you how much of assurance would we need to sit there and think about it and forget not God's law on what he has set up for us today. You got to keep this in mind. That's why he says, forget not my law, the things I have structured up. He says, and a raven don't do anything. A raven does nothing. A man comes and then he want to be God's creation, self-inventions. God created medicines is why we don't use them. See, they'll tell you to take this and take that and take this and take that, and they want to sit there because they want to be a God. So he's telling you, look at the birds. They don't do anything. They fly, they eat, they poop, they rest. Think about that. The ravens, they fly, they eat, they poop, they rest. And they don't have anything to store food for any long period of time. They don't have bird refrigerators where a bird can go purchase a refrigerator. They don't have anything to store anything. But the Spirit of God feeds them, and not us. He feeds them. You can look outside and see birds all over the place. They're everywhere. And you won't see not one bird where you take care of that bird out there. So he's saying this to make sure we understand it. It says right here, including God feedeth them. So if he feedeth them, he's telling you, how much more are ye better than the fowls? So if we are better than the fowls, why in the world we're not using the medicines that was created out of the earth from God for us to heal our bodies, but we trust in man so much. We trust in man. We trust in man. Why do we do this? Why do we trust man so much? And then we'll sit there and talk, oh well, he's educated, he's this, and he's this well-renowned doctor. Think about that. I'm telling you. The Lord created medicines out of the earth. He already did this. So why are we sitting there waiting on medicines that man creates? And then you put all your trust in man. All our trust go right into man. In fact, look at verse 25. It says this, and which of you taking thought can add to his stature 1 cubit? So he's asking a question that we really need to answer. So what it's saying here, to make sure we clearly all on the same page, including one, how can one sit there and you got people who they used to sell those type of pills, those type of drugs, those type of things, sitting there saying, you take this and take that, and you do this and do that, and you can add 1 inch to your height. And you have some people, I took it, he did me. No, it didn't. It adds stature. Can you do that? Can you add 1 cubit to his stature? 1 cubit. You have people talking about you do this and you do this and you can add time to your lifespan. telling you this don't have nothing to do with a spirit, but they telling you, you take this, you take that, and you're going to live longer. So they making that's true. They making 1 Timothy true. So now if they say they can, they proven they are perjured persons. They proven they are perjured persons. Why? Because they're liars. Because they're going to swear to, oh yeah, you take this, oh I promise you'd add 5 years to your life. You know how many people say this on TV and radio? Take this and you just add 5 years to your life. They're perjured persons. But the biggest thing is people want to believe them. People is going to believe them. No matter what you say, no matter what you do, they're going to believe them. They sitting there right now. They've been doing one of the biggest things. They, back in the 50s, the 40s, the 30s, they've been doing chemotherapy since then. Chemo. Drugs that your body rejects. That kills everything. And now we in the technology where we supposed to be so far advanced. Back then, it was 1 out of 1,000 that would attract cancer. In the year 2021, it's 1 out of 3. Telling you, we went backwards. And the craziest thing is this. We are pouring money, pour billions and pour billions and pour trillions of dollars into these cancer research places. I'm only pause it for the effect, just so you can think about that. He's telling, I created medicines out of the earth, and he that is wise will not harbor them. And we sitting there putting all our trust in a man. God saying, forget not my law. What he structured, what he set up. In fact, in verse 26, it says this. It says, if ye be not able to do that thing which is least, why take ye thought for the rest? I'm talking, this is so straight. All he's saying, I'm going to break down to where the goats can get it. So he's telling, if they can't do what they saying they're doing now, why do we sit there and take that same lie for our rest? We comfortable with this. We're going to take trusting in them. So you trusting in what? Why do you think people, to show you the silliness on how people are, and I'm talking about now, the world over. It shows you our ignorance. We, as a human race, is a destroyed, ignorant people. This is not a white thing. This is not a black thing. This is not an Asian thing. This is not a Mexican thing. This is a man thing. We are a destroyed people of ignorance. Where you have a few people can destroy your way of thinking. It's sickening to where we sit there and you sit back and you see the stupidity, the ignorance of a broken people saying this. They have this virus out right now that was created by man. And we sit there and you have people running to the doctor getting shots that's not doing anything. Some people dying from the shots. And not understanding this ain't nothing but bio warfare. They checking to see how to do things. Because if you think about it, they did one thing years ago. They set down an atomic bomb and destroyed a bunch of land that still pretty much is unbuildable. We can't do anything with it. So they got a little bit smarter. They have taken the same identical thing, and now they say, well, I'll tell you what, we want the land because we want what's probably in the ground. So the easiest thing for us to do is let's destroy the people and not the country. We're going to destroy people to where the country is stay intact. And all we got to do is burn up the people, and we're good. And we're good. But you sit there, and we sit there, and we play this harp and let men tell you, no, this is there and this is that. This will heal you and this won't heal you. We already destroyed people. We have let people like that destroy you. And no matter what, they will continue. Because no matter what, people are going to sit there and look at a person and think that whatever's coming out of their mouth is true. And he's telling you, he created medicines out of the earth, and a man that is wise will not harbor them. However, that's not true to some people. Some people are going to sit there and say, no, I'm going to trust in this man. And including that, he's killing you. Because why? You trust in the science of a man. Not meditating on the singleness of heart where it's needed, which is desiring and fearing God. I don't care how you look at this. How you flip it. I don't care how you script it out. The smartest thing to do is, I'm going to take out a bunch of people and I'm going to leave the land intact. And then the first thing they have is men talking about, oh no, we're doing this for science. No, they're not. They're doing that because they have bigger plans. So we need to meditate on the singleness of heart, which is with God. Fearing, which is desiring God, because the earth was created by him. And by him, all things were made and all things was created. Only one thing was not created by God. One thing was not created by God. God didn't make some things. And what people say, well, God created. No, he didn't. He didn't make everything. Let's look at this a little bit deeper to see where I'm coming from. To see right where I'm coming from. We're going to look at something. We're going to go to Wisdom of Solomon. On some more fools who say this is a false book. And we're going to look at Wisdom of Solomon. We're going to go to chapter 1. We're going to pick it up at verse 12. We're going to look at verse 12 and see something. And it says this. In verse 12 it says, seek not death in error of your life. Don't seek death in error of life. See, men's inventions of medicines to save life is the same one seeking the same things which is in the flesh that's seeking death. Doing the things that's fit for death is destruction in the works within your power, which is the error of life. It's what they're doing to you, and we don't even know it. Because we're blind to it. Think about that. See, this is all games, all understanding. You move aside and just look at what God just told us and what we do. He says, forget not my law. Don't forget how I structured the sun to come up and go down every day. Since the beginning of time, it's been doing the same thing based on his ordinances. The moon doing the same. Everything works the same. The water don't come up past from where it comes. And the first thing he said, I also created these medicines out of the earth, and a man that is wise will not harbor them. And we sit there and put 100% trust in a man. Makes us a 100% a fool. Now you see where I'm coming from. This is sickening. See, this is not just in within the children of Israel. This is sickening within the world. You let people do this, and all they gotta do is talk to you. That makes sense. Yeah, they're gonna make you use your own common sense, your own common ignorance, and they got you. They got you. They invent medicines saying they saving your life. And they got 30, 40 seconds of warnings on what side effects can happen. So you dealing with the power of error. And with that, let's look at verse 13. Let's look at verse 13, because it's going to tell you right here. It says, for God made not death. Oh, I thought he created, no, he didn't make death. As I told you. Only one people create death. One. One thing create death. Take a wild guess. Who does this? God has no joy in creating death. Let's read the whole thing and then deal with that. It says, for God made not death, neither have pleasure in destruction of the living. He's not about that. But man is about that. So he has to destroy that because death will just keep rolling. Death will continually roll. Think about this. I'm telling you, we can't get out of our own way. Because the main thing we do, we create things, then we acting as if we sitting there and we pursuing and we being persuaded and trying to play God. And guys, forgetting not my law, forgetting that. Who set all this up? God. Okay. I made medicine. I made those too. Oh no, I'm gonna trust Dr. Fauci. I'm gonna roll with Dr. Fauci on this, God. And he one of the ones who have made sure it was funded. Funded on people dying the way they dying. We're gonna roll with him, God. Let's look at something. We want to look at something. Let's go to Genesis. We're gonna go all the way back to the beginning. All the way back to the beginning. We're gonna go to Genesis chapter 2. We're gonna pick it up at verse 9. Why? Because I want to show you something to make sure that we get this. It says, and out of the ground made the Spirit of thy God to grow every tree. It's not talking about a tree. This is again a problem, but that's okay. It says that is pleasant in thy sight and good for food. In the tree of life, also in the midst of the garden, including the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Here go the thought. Here go the thought. Again, where we have a problem at. Because God planted life and it comes from out of the ground. He didn't do death. He didn't make death grow up. Keep that in mind. He didn't grow death. Life comes up. Not death comes up. Life comes up. And the only thing that made death is the one of the life and the creator of death. I'm telling you, we can't get out of our own way for the silliness that we do. Actually, let's drop down. Let's drop down to 15 and look at this a little bit deeper. We're gonna go down to 15. Actually, let's go down to 11. Actually, let's go down to 15. We'll come back to 11. Do it that way. We'll go down to 15 and we're gonna come back up. It says, and the Spirit of thy God took the man and put him into the garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it. He put him in that garden to dress it and to keep it, to meditate on the things which is in God and to learn of life. However, we will learn the things which is evil and things which is of death. And once we learn those, He's going to have those things in our heart. Because He's going to tell us some things which is within Him. Watch what He says. It says, and the Spirit of God commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden thou mayest eat freely, but the tree of the knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not learn of it, for in that day that you learn it thereof, thou shalt surely die. And what do we want to learn of? He didn't put the tree there. He didn't put the tree there. It was a corrupted tree. It was a corrupted tree. But since the tree was corrupted, the same thing is we want to learn of that tree. We want to learn of that tree. That's why I say, our ignorance, we can't get out the way of ignorance. So this is why I say we're going to sit there, but let's go back and look at something. Let's go back and let's look at something. See, it's telling you right here. I'm going to show you this here. We're going to look at it real close. It's saying this right here. In verse 14 of Wisdom of Solomon, it says, for He created all things that He might have their being, including the generations of the world, were helpful, and there is no poison of destruction in them, nor the kingdom of death upon the earth. He said a mouthful here. But we're going to break this down that a lot of people is not going to like. Ask me, do I care? See, that's the question. Ask me, do I care? Because I'm going to tell you the truth. You're just not going to like it. See, because He's telling you right here, He created all things that they might have their being. Their being. Keep that in the being within themselves, including the operations of the world, were helpful. So we're looking at the operation of the world. And there's no poison. Meaning there's no foreign substance that's injected in them. If people say, so what are you saying, Elder? I'm going to tell you. You're not trying to mix an apple with oranges. You're not trying to make a pigeon or mate him with a hawk. You're not trying to take a shark and mate it with a whale. Let me go deeper. You're not trying to mix a black man with a white man. I'm telling you that right there. Because that's poison. See, this is the problem. I told you, you're not going to like it, but don't ask me, do I care? See, they don't need other people mixing with other people to preserve the seed of another people. God already set up the way it's supposed to roll. This is why you sit there and see, and you go in some countries, you see all these people is this one people. They flourishing. And you sit there and you see that, and you sit there and you see what the problem is. Because what they'll do, they'll come out and they'll try to mix seed. So now you got mixed seed, and you come up with these hybrids. Meaning what? I tell you what. That's why you see blacks mixing with French, and then they call themselves Creoles. Yeah. You got blacks mixing with white and call themselves mulattoes. And mulatto, please go check it. Please go check it. Because mulatto don't mean nothing but hybrid. It's a hybrid creation. Told you you're not going to like it when you hit the truth. See, we don't supposed to be mixing and matching, which it tells you right back in verse 11. Let's go right back in here. We're going to go to Genesis chapter 1, and we're going to look at verse 11. Let's go up to 1 and 11. Why I said that's why I want to go there a little bit later, so we can look at this a little bit closer. And we're going to go to Genesis chapter 1, picking up at verse 11. And it says, and God said, let the earth bring forth grass. And 1 second, let me sit there and see if I can do it this way. Let me see if I can stop it from rolling. That's what I want to do. You keep going to 1, but you want to move. So let me stop this one. I'm going to go to the other one. I'm going to go to this one. Let's go to this one here. We'll go to Genesis 1. And this one doing the same thing. Okay. So we'll see Genesis 1. We're going to look at 11. But it don't want to stop for some reason. So it says, and God said, let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth. And it was so, and the earth brought forth grass and herbs yielding seed after his kind, and the tree yielding fruit, and whose seed was in itself after his kind, and God saw that it was good. God saw that it was good. So what is that saying for you? We don't supposed to be mixing seed because it made it after his own kind. Keep that in mind. But this is the problem. And then the first thing people will say is, oh, that's racist teaching. No, it's not. He's telling you right up front. You shouldn't be trying to mix the apples with oranges. You don't try to make a pigeon and try to mate him with a hawk. You don't be trying to take a shark and mate it with a whale. You don't take a black man and try to mate it with a white man. You don't try to take a black man and try to mate it with a Mexican. You don't try to take a black man and mate it with an Asian. You don't take an Asian and try to mate it with a white man. You can respect them for what they are. They got seeds within themselves. They don't need you to help keep that line going, because once you do that line, you're going to start mixing, you're going to start making hybrids. Scripture is clear on the subject, including we're not to forget the law on how God structured it out. People will sit there and tell you plain as day, people done went out, oh, I'm tell you what, the Asians went over to this part, and then their eyes got a little bit tighter, and their nose changed, and all these features changed, and then the blacks over there, they was over here, their nose got wider, and all this. They tell you a bunch of lies. Bunch of lies. You got white people been in Africa for years, as well as in other hot areas. Their nose haven't changed. Their noses have not changed. The same as black people is in cold areas. Their nose have not changed either. But people have an issue with this. The reason people have an issue with it is because they like mixing. They like mixing. And he's saying you don't mix. That's why you don't see a monkey mixing with another type of a monkey. You don't see a chimpanzee trying to mix with a gorilla. The only thing that got common sense is the animal. We have none. We have absolutely none. And he did that for a reason. Let's look at this. Let's look at this all together. It says, no, the kingdom of death is upon the earth. Because he's telling us right in verse 15. It says, for righteousness is immortal. Righteousness is immortal. That's what's immortal. Righteousness. And why is he saying what he's saying? Because people have a problem with what's going on. See, when you're keeping things the way God set it up, and as we meditate on the creations of God and learn and we meditate on them, not trying to mix apples with oranges, then we can go look forward towards righteousness, where we can be looking forward towards immortal. How long have you ever looked at how long a tree lived not mixing with other trees? How long do you see dogs not mixing with other dogs? See, when you go look at purebred dogs, same thing, you can go get a purebred mastiff that was already a mixed breed. He's gonna live an average of what, 8-9 years, and he dead. Dead. When you got the Australian cattle dogs, got a lifespan of 15 to 20 years. Think about that. How do they live in 15 to 20 years? I'm telling you, we can't get out of our way. Because it tells you, it says, but the ungodly men with their works, and called it to them, for when they thought to have it their friend, and consumed to not, and made the covenant with it, because they are worthy to take part with it. Meaning you want to mix with death. You want to mix with death. and the diseases that comes with it. The diseases that come with that. In fact, I want to show you something. We're going to look at Genesis. I'm going to go ahead to Genesis.
I can't connect to your Wi-Fi
One
network.
second. 1 second.
You can find setup instructions in the help section of your Alexa app.
So let's go here to Genesis in 47. And we want to look at something. Genesis 47. We're going to look at verse 8. Verse 8. And let's look at something. It says this. Because Pharaoh, he's tripping on this. Kind of trips Pharaoh out. He said this. And Pharaoh said unto Jacob, how old art thou? Because Pharaoh never seen somebody that old. He never seen somebody that old. But Jacob wasn't in the mixing. But we're going to see something. How old are you? And Jacob said unto Pharaoh, the days of the years of my pilgrimage are 130 years. Few and evil have the days of the years of my life been. I have not obtained unto days of years of my life of my fathers in the days of their pilgrimage. Think about that. Think about that. See, we need to let our heart, we need to meditate on the things that God created, because I was trying to sit there to understand how to try to mix it. The first thing that we'll try to do, we'll sit there and we'll mix things, we'll take things such as that, even as the things to where we'll look at, and now you can go buy seedless watermelon, saying you want the seedless watermelon, the one that man altered. Oh, I want to give me a seedless watermelon. Why? Because it got B17 in it, in the seed. But guess what? They want to remove it so it can make you more unhealthy. They have us buying water, and water coming right out your faucet. Water is free. You can't get out our own way. See, our heart is meditating on them, seeing them as gods. Being our hearts is set over to something else, but our heart needs to be set on the commandments that God stated. And once we set our hearts on the way that God has it stated, he tells you this when you look at it over here in verse 2. It says, but let thy heart keep the commandments, for thy days in long life and peace shall they add to thee. Interesting, ain't it? This is the reason. Not trying to prolong something by mixing and matching. But we have a lot of people who want to sit there and same thing. You have women talking, I want to divest over here. Divest over there. See, because once you get older, they're going to look to eliminate you anyway, based on ignorance. So this is the reason for our days to be lengthened and long and peaceful during the search of our kingdom. Because we have to sit there and have a pure heart towards God and be meditating on the things on God for us to see God. He set it up. But we have a problem. As soon as somebody open their mouth and say, you should not be mixing with this other people, the first thing, I didn't say not be friends to them, but people say, oh, we can't mix with them. Oh, you are a racist. They are a fool. So you're calling God a racist. Now, I'm not God. God set this up. But we want to sit there. He have these different races of people, and we want to sit there and mix them up like a fool. Let's look at this. Let's look at this a little bit more. And we're going to go to Matthew chapter 5, picking it up at verse 8. It says, blessed, wisdom is given are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. I'm not trying to sit there and do anything, God. See, this is the problem on what's going on. You pure at heart, when you're having a pure heart, you're not trying to alter the creations of God. That's a pure heart. You're not trying to make a watermelon seedless. You're not trying to make a grape seedless. You're not trying to make an apple seedless. The same as God will not alter his word. He's not altering his word. We don't supposed to be trying to alter his creations. I'm telling you, we can't get out our own way. Actually, he even said that. I'm going to show you. He said exactly what I just said. Some people don't want to say it, but I'm going to show it to you. We're going to look at it in its fullness. We're going to go to Psalms 89. 89, we're going to park right there at verse 34. He says, my covenant will I not break, nor alter the thing that is going out of my lips. I set the sun to come up and go down at a certain time every day. I got the moon come up and go down every day. I put the stars up there also. I call the light, light. I call the day, day. I call night, night. I call a boy, boy. I call a girl, girl. And I'm not altering nothing. Nothing. But man has. I call black, black. Asian, Asian. I'm not altering nothing. But they do. So a lot of us going to let truth get away from us. A lot of us going to let grace get away from us based on all this craziness that's going on. Let's look at this. Let's look at it all together. Verse 3, it says, let not mercy and truth forsake thee. Bind them about thy neck and write them upon the table of thy heart. But the first thing I want to key in on, because he said two things. He said, let not mercy and truth forsake thee. So you don't want mercy and truth to forsake you for no reason whatsoever. So we're going to deal with those. We got to deal with them. So we're going to deal with mercy, because mercy, when you want to know really what mercy is, how it functions, how it works, well, it's clear. See, because it's meaning God's goodness, kindness, love, promises. And if you forsake that, it's going to forsake you. So we need to learn how to keep these things of God intact as we be meditating on them. Learn through the letters in the book, which can help us to keep our hearts towards God. Are you with me? See, this is the problem that we have. Actually, let me tell you that. Let's go a little bit better. We're going to go a little bit better here. We can't get out our own way. But we're going to see something. We're going to go to 2 Corinthians, picking it up at chapter 3. We're going to find something, because we got to stay in this book. We have to stay in this book. And it says this, in 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 1, it says, do we begin again to commend ourselves? Question mark. Do we commend ourselves? Do we praise and regard and approve ourselves? We make these drugs and we approve ourselves? Really? I'm telling you, we can't get out our own way. Do we put ourselves on pedestals? We got a drug that can stop something for a minute, but then come back with vengeance and kill you. So he's saying this. Or need we, as some other epistles in commendation to you, or letters of commendation from you? I'm telling you, we can't get out of our own way. Because these epistles ain't nothing but talking about letters, and the letters is talking about epistles. Where's yours? See, they from the prophets, and these letters is none other but from these prophets as part of everything, and you ain't got no letter in this book. Not one. So we need to look in this book, understand these letters, and put these letters, and we need to put these inside of us and take them to heart. It says this right here. It says this right here. We're going to look at it. Verse 2, it says, ye are our epistles written in our hearts, known and read of all men. So we need to be reading these scriptures, understanding them, putting them to heart, to where we can seek what we need to what we seeking, because we need mercy and we need truth. We need it, because if not, he said it'll forsake us. Mercy and truth will forsake you. If you play stupid if you want to. Play stupid if you want to. Actually, verse 3 gets a little bit deeper. It says, for as much we are manifestly declared to be the epistle of Christ, ministered by us, written not with ink, but with the Spirit of the living God, not in tables of stone, but in fleshly tables of the heart. I ain't never seen that in the Bible. Then you don't like it, tear it out. Not in traditional paper and pen. Spirit of God is within you. Not written on stone. It's within your heart. So if you're seeking mercy, you better seek it. Because if not, it'll forsake us. And the second part of that I told you, not letting truth forsake us also. Because he said that. You see he said that. He says, I'm going to show you again. It says, let not mercy and truth forsake thee, because it will. And we need to know what truth is, how it works, how it functions. Yeah. See, truth is faithful. Truth is reliable. Truth is the same thing every time. It's the same thing yesterday. It's the same thing today. It's the same thing forever. Truth. Let me show you what I'm talking about. We're going to go to Hebrews. We're going to go to Hebrews. And you don't want this to forsake you, because it's not changing. It's not changing whatsoever. Hebrews chapter 13 and verse 8. It says, salvation of the anointed one is the same yesterday, today, and forever. But people will sit there and say this is a man. When he's talking, why he named him, calling him salvation. But people don't get that. So it's absolute. It's trustworthy. It is established in absolute righteousness. That's why so many of us going to bust hell wide open. So many of us going straight to hell. Thinking, oh, I've been going to church all these years. Yeah. Esau started with tears, and he busted hell wide open. Let's get some law here real quick. We're going to get something. We're going to get something here. We're going to get a little bit here, and we're going to go to Exodus, and we're going to pick it up at chapter 13. And we're going to go with it, verse 8, to understand it a little bit more. It says, and thou shalt show thy son in that day, saying, this is done because of that which the Spirit of God did unto me when I came forth out of bondage. I came forth out of bondage. You had a certain mindset. So what it's doing is showing us that we was prisoners. We was prisoners to sin. We are prisoners to bondage to the devil. But he's telling us here. In verse 9 it says this, even more clear. It says, and it shall be for a sign unto thee upon thy hand, upon thy power, including for a memorial between thy understanding of the Spirit of God's law. Forget not my law. Interesting. Interesting, isn't it? But it's telling you, may be in thy mouth. For with a strong hand, for with your power, have the Spirit of God brought thee out of Egypt, brought you out of bondage. So, knowing these things, we need to make sure what we're doing. Because he's going to tell you right here. He's going to make sure it's right here in verse 10. Watch what he says here in verse 10. It says, thou shalt therefore keep this ordinance in the season from year to year. The same way that sun goes up, the same way that sun go down. You keep that from year to year. And forget not his law. We know this, and the same thing is what the Bible says, and it makes it always clearly understandable, but we like to switch it around and alter things and think it fits because we're going to listen to people and they tell you something contrary to doctrine, but you're so into believing what they're saying, you want to hold on to it. And so when you stand before God and He tell you, "I never knew you," you know that's your fault because they can show you things you cannot see, but you want to believe them with everything, so you hold on to it. In Psalms 119, 142, it says this. It says, "Thy righteousness is everlasting righteousness. In thy law, which we're to meditate on, is the truth." You can prove it. All you gotta do is go outside. Go outside for the next the next days of your living. Go outside and see, do the sun never come up? Go outside and see, do it not come up? It's gonna come up every day. Every day it's gonna come up. So we need to bind those things. That's why I said, just telling you, let not thy mercy and truth forsake thee. Bind. So we need to bind this. Bind them about thy neck. Because once we bind it here, it's bound in heaven. So that's the whole catch. In fact, let's look at this all together. Let's look at this all together. We want to look at Matthew 18:18. Matthew 18:18. It tells us this and helps us out a lot more. 18:18 it says, "Verily I say unto you, whatsoever ye shall bind on earth shall be bound in heaven." Bingo. So we need to bind this. And what we bind in that we seek in truth and mercy of God. That's what we seeking. This is what we seeking. So this is the thing that we always looking for, that we want. And we want to make sure all the things that we seeking as we continue, as we move forward. So if we seek in truth, if we truly seek in truth, in mercy, and then we join to make that happen, we making ourselves leagues with Christ. And we bind this on earth, it's bound in heaven. And then we can write these things to table over our hearts, and where we can receive mercy and truth together for Christ. So hopefully we got some pretty good understanding of these first three to where we can move forward as we're going through Proverbs. So we're going to be doing the deeper study as going in the back. You can look in the show more in the description area, and you'll see the link to where you can go into the Zoom room area. So with that, you're more than welcome, but you know what the requirements are. So with that, we ask that each and every person, that we welcome you to come in the back to where we can complete the study. And the other ones that choose not to, we thank you. And until then, I say until this weekend. So until next time, I say to each and every person, until then, shalom. It's a yeah. I'm trying to see what went on here. What's going on right here? Cause I'm trying to do it. I don't know what this thing done did. Let me see. Cause it's still not this media. Yeah.